Hello and welcome back to JVSCP. Today we're going to be taking a look at a few entries that are furniture. But as things usually go with SCPs, it's probably a little more interesting than what you first think. SCP-6207 by SwordLover87 from the SCP Wiki. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-6207 is to be kept in a standard low-threat containment chamber at Site 8, with a 15-meter exclusion zone established around the cell's perimeter. Testing on the anomaly and routine cleaning of its cell may only be performed via remotely operated implements. Clothed personnel intending to approach within 10 meters of 6207 must remain inside a full-body protective shield. Following the events of the 14th of June 2022, more stringent security measures for SCP-6207 are being implemented. Description: SCP-6207 is a stationary office chair of unknown make and model. Precise details of 6207's appearance are obscured by a large pile of assorted clothes draped over the object. Removing articles of clothing from this pile does not alter its size or shape. It is likely that 6207 internally generates new clothing through unknown means to replace any articles lost. Any article of clothing brought within 10 meters of 6207 is seized by a chitinous multi-joined appendage that emerges from the anomaly's inner layers. This appendage will lengthen to pursue clothing even after it is taken outside the initial radius of effect, and has been recorded extending to a length of 0.9 kilometers in order to retrieve an item shot from a pressurized air cannon. Collected clothes will then be incorporated into the outermost layer of 6207. This has given me heavy Clutter vibes. Did anyone watch Clutter with the little clothes monster guy? I feel like this is that all grown up. The little Clutter guy. SCP-6207 indiscriminately targets clothing that is not actively being worn, but when exposed to clothed human test subject, will limit itself to retrieving their jackets, shoes, and other non-essential items. The reason for this is unclear. It is theorized that the anomaly does not remove articles of clothing from a human if doing so would cause indecent exposure. At irregular intervals, 6207 will violently discard scraps of torn fabric, evidently originating from shredded clothing. Discovery: SCP-6207 was recovered from an apartment in Alberta, Canada, following reports of a tenant's unexplained disappearance and an uptick in thefts of clothing in the surrounding area. Embedded Foundation agents investigated and found 6207 in the bedroom of the apartment. The original tenant could not be identified. Their personal information does not appear in housing records, and city officials have been unable to explain this discrepancy. The apartment containing 6207 was in a state of severe disarray at the time of recovery, with furniture overturned and large amounts of soiled clothes scattered throughout the residence. All reflective surfaces in the apartment had either been shattered by a blunt force or obscured by clothing. Also recovered was a framed photograph of an unidentified individual facing away from the camera. This item is notable for being in perfect condition. Addendum. On the 14th of June 2022, a test was conducted in which 6207 was presented with the photograph recovered from its location of discovery. 6207 picked up the photograph with its appendage and appeared to inspect it for several seconds, then abruptly threw it across the containment chamber, shattering its frame. Shortly thereafter, 6207 displayed highly atypical behavior. 10 to 12 black compound eyes emerged between the anomaly's folds. Simultaneously, 7 chitinous appendages dressed in striped arm warmers extended, and began to fling clothing away from the central mass of 6207 at a high speed. This continued until approximately 170 articles of clothing had been discarded, at which point all abnormal features withdrew into 6207 and disappeared from view. Over the following week, personnel throughout Site 8 reported that articles of clothing had gone missing from their dormitories. accompanied by sightings of appendages akin to those of 6207 retracting into wardrobes and dresser drawers. Similar incidents were reported in civilian communities surrounding the site, particularly in high-quality designer clothing stores. Additionally, 6207 has begun to discard shredded fabric more frequently. The significance of this is under review. So something that I think we've never really touched on in any of our videos is that each entry on the SCP Wiki has like a title, and the title for this one is Make Me Beautiful. I also looked into the discussion a little bit, because on the SCP Wiki, if you don't know, people can, leave their comments and thoughts, and the author can get back to them and maybe expand on stuff if they want. And in one of the comments there, the author refers to that apparently somewhere it supposedly says, I need to hear her say that I'm ... And I can't find any references to that in the articles. Maybe that was like the previous title, or maybe it's been changed. I don't know. But all that to say, this one really kind of made me feel some stuff. I don't know what. I don't know what it made me feel exactly, but it's good. Like it's good. It affected me somehow. I see that a few people have interpreted it as if it's about like a narcissist. I saw some people mention that they interpret it as being about a clothes designer that won't accept any article of clothing unless it's perfect. Personally, I don't know about that. But to me, it had a really sad vibe to it in a really good way. I like my sad shit. And since the SCP Wiki is almost at 9,000 SCPs at this point, I guess the fact that this is from the 6,000 series doesn't mean that it's brand spanking new anymore, even though it is from 2022, so it's not super old either. But surprisingly, this entry only has 41 votes, or whatever it's called. You can basically give a plus point or a minus point to any article. And I thought this was really good. But maybe it's just that I like the vague ones. Let's do this. Let me know what you think. Did you think that this was a good entry? And if you thought it was, if people agree with me, then let's read more by this author. That could be a video. So if you liked this entry, leave a comment saying #clutter_yes. And if we get enough of those, we'll do one where we just kind of dive into a few of this author's entries, because they've written a bunch I see here. Let's do that. #clutter_yes. SCP-1117 by Basilisk9466 from the SCP Wiki. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-1117-1 is to be stored in a standard secured vault at Site. Under no circumstances are personnel to be permitted to enter the chamber or interact with the object. Cases of 1117-3 produced by accidental exposure or testing are to be placed into isolation with minimal contact. Description: SCP-1117-1 is a wooden dining room table, 90 centimeters long by 150 centimeters wide by 75 centimeters tall. Testing indicates that it is approximately 70 years old and has shown no unusual preservative properties. -1 is laden with a wide variety of food and drink, designated 1117-2. When consumed by subjects, it is rapidly replaced, though the exact contents of the table are not consistent. Analysis has been unable to find a pattern. Dishes and products from cultures all over the world have been observed. Subjects display great enjoyment during the meal. Testing has revealed that it is possible to remove dishes from the table and serve them elsewhere with the same results. Subjects unaware of the food's origin still describe it as very tasty. Any who have consumed food or drink from -1 become subject to a secondary effect. These individuals, designated 1117-3, have the ability to cause -2 to spontaneously appear nearby whenever they feel hungry. Subjects display great reluctance to consume anything other than the food that they find, remarking that nothing else tastes as good. The effect can be spread if -3 share -2 with other individuals. Aside from these effects, the found food is indistinguishable from normal food. The side effect of 1117 exposure only appear after roughly a week. Individuals with active lifestyles are affected notably faster, demonstrating the effects after only a few days. Subjects have described a steady decrease in energy levels and become easily fatigued. Continued consumption of -2 increases the effects. Between 3 and 6 weeks after initial exposure, subjects apparently die from a lack of energy, or from theoretically harmless contagions. No unusual physiological effects have been noted, and autopsies have proved largely inconclusive, with no signs of damage consistent with previously studied energy-draining phenomena. Forcing -3 to ingest food other than -2 after the effects have begun to show has induced extreme nausea and fatal cardiac arrhythmia in all cases. Autopsies have shown severe depletion of phosphates, magnesium, and calcium to be a significant contributing factor, although the cause of these deficiencies is unclear. Given the SCP's ability to spread rapidly, -1 has been declared off limits. Field agents are advised to be alert to any signs of 1117 exposure in the general population. Addendum.
Lock it up. Research is going nowhere and this thing is clearly of no use to us. Just keep watching out for signs of infection in the general population. There could be a major epidemic if it gets out. This whole project has been thoroughly depressing. We get enough routine deaths around here without testing inexplicable ones. At least the bodies take up less room.
Doctor. SCP-738 by Le Blue Dude from the SCP Wiki. Object Class Keter. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-738 is to be kept in 3 linked sealed chambers with armed guards and a remote detonation system at all times, as well as constant full audio/visual surveillance. Due to the variety and strength of observed interactions with 738 and the unknown limits of 738, the following procedures are to be strictly followed. When SCP-738 is not in use, its components must be kept 1 to each chamber. Mechanical means built into the containment area are to be used to assemble and disassemble 738. Should mechanical assembly means fail, then testing is to be cancelled until an engineer fitted with an explosive collar can be sent in to repair the systems. Said engineer is to be detonated upon any attempt to interact with any component of 738. Should mechanical disassembly fail, preset-shaped charges shall be used to disassemble 738. The system should then be repaired and reset by a single engineer fitted with an explosive collar. All Class D personnel used to test the device must be mildly intellectually disabled or of comparably impaired cognitive function, and must be fitted with an explosive collar. This is in order to prevent them from learning too much about 738 and possibly using 738 in a way that is detrimental to the Foundation. This is a pattern I've noticed a little bit, that in the earlier SCP entries, specifically like the first 1,000, but probably the first couple or 3,000 if I had to guess, they don't shy away as much from really making the Foundation out to be straight up evil. And don't get me wrong, they still do that in newer ones, but they're now usually, in my humble opinion, evil in a more complex way. It's more, thought out. It's more steps to it. It's not just make sure to send in mentally handicapped people with bomb collars. But I mean, it makes sense. That's the Flanderization of the SCP universe as a whole. It's gonna slowly have become more complex in every aspect of it. I guess Flanderization has sort of a negative connotation. That's not really what I meant, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. Let's continue. Class D personnel with IQs over 60 and all other personnel are not allowed into the room containing 738. Class D personnel are allowed into the room containing 738 for experimentation only and are to be provided with continual instruction by research personnel. Description: SCP-738 consists of 3 components. A matched set of mahogany furniture, including 1 desk currently labeled -1, 1 straight-backed chair currently labeled -2, and 1 ornate throne-styled office chair labeled -3, all with brass embellishments and royal purple velvet padding. The effect begins when a sentient entity sits in -2 in front of -1 with -3 resting behind -2. Cameras show -3 moving during the effect, frequently leaning back into a relaxed state as well as moving closer to or further away from -2. Occasionally, Dash 3 is moved in front of Dash 2. Furthermore, cameras show papers and folders containing papers leaving Dash 1's drawers. The papers are made of parchment. A quill pen and a bottle of ink emerge from the long drawer. The pen will write on the parchment. Audio recorders record a distorted voice speaking. This voice will make offers and promises, attempting to tempt the occupant of Dash 2. Meaning has been extracted from the spoken voice. If, in this time, the entity sitting in Dash 2 makes a request, then the tempting and offers will cease. There will be a pause and a price will be stated. This can be bargained with. However, the voice will insist on other prices of equal value. Occasionally, when a request is made, the voice will respond by telling the requester that they do not want the object enough, or that they are obviously requesting the object for someone else to get around paying full price, in which case the request is not fulfilled. This occurs most frequently for requests that can affect other people or can transfer possession. Accepting the deal causes the agreed upon wish or command to be fulfilled to the letter, but not past the letter. Furthermore, it will cause the occurrences stated in the price to be paid. The entity has actively stated that the occurrences in the price are intended to cause an amount of emotional and/or physical pain equal to the amount that the requester desires what they request. How parity is calculated is at present unknown. The price has also been stated to be independent of any pain caused by fulfilling the request. See the test log for examples of prices paid and requests made. As a final note, personnel in the chair have reported seeing an entity sitting in Dash 3. However, all attempts to observe this entity when not seated in Dash 2 have failed, and further descriptions of the entity are inconsistent between sessions, even with multiple sessions with the same person. When asked about this, the entity claims to be the same entity each time. Some frequent descriptions of the entity include seductive and charming. Sessions with the same person that are close in time report similar or identical entity appearances. Sessions with different people that are close in time report different entities' appearances. Descriptions of the voice do not match the voice recorded on the equipment. Addendum 738-1. History. SCP-738 was recovered from the office of a Catholic cardinal after his death on. He had received it as a gift from the Pope for extraordinary services from the Vatican archives. The Foundation became aware of 738 after with dead and his will contested in the aftermath of the event. Foundation personnel acquired the desk. Foundation agents in the Vatican reported recovering some of the documents surrounding 738. Addendum 738-2. Test results. Test 1. Researcher sits in 738-2 and waits. Results. Researcher reports several attempts made to coerce him into a deal, with deals including love of the woman he wants, an object that would make him a well-respected researcher, and the granting of O5 status. Startled researcher leaves Dash 2, leaves room. Recordings follow statements provided. Researcher reports disappearance of the entity, followed by return of pen, paper, and folders to drawers. Using cameras, speed of object return clocked at over 120 milliseconds. Researcher reports seeing a man in a red and gold business suit. Test 2. Personnel D sat on Dash 2. Analysis performed upon papers and documents. Results. Spectral analysis has confirmed that the parchment is human skin. The feather in the quill pen comes from an unidentified bird. Subject offered freedom, is told that the price is the death of his best friend. D laughed and agreed, then vanished. D was recaptured 5 hours later. Documents written in English. D involved in test reported seeing a beautiful and seductive woman. Test 3. Personnel D, a non-native English speaker, sits in Dash 2. Results. Papers written in D's native language. as is spoken communication. D offered the power to never be held in a cell again. Price is stated to be the memories of D's mother. D accepts the offer. The acceptance resulting in the deaths of 12 guards and D. Test 4. Personnel D, dyslexic and seriously intellectually disabled, sits in -2. Results. The language on the parchment appeared to be crude pictograms representing the deal, though some words in English were represented in the parchment. In general, the English was unrelated to the pictures they were under and frequently insult D's intelligence and state that the entity is uncertain of how much of this D understands. D was offered a sloppy Joe. Price was stated to be Mopsy, a toy that D had been allowed to smuggle into the Foundation. D accepted and food was materialized upon the desk, along with antique silverware, fine china plate, and crystal glass sippy cup with wine-colored grape juice. D shows great distress upon discovering that Mopsy was missing after finishing the meal. D reports seeing a large pink rabbit. After deal was complete and D left chair, recorders picked up a sigh. Voice print of sigh does not match D voice. I fucking hate that they did this to this D class, that they took Mopsy from him. I hate that. Test 4 follow-up. D issued toy exactly identical to Mopsy. Result. As soon as D named the toy Mopsy, it vanished. D showed great emotional distress. You motherfuckers. Is this a price worth paying for this bullshit? Like, you could argue that that was nice of them to give him a new thing, but they also sent him into the fucking entity and now he doesn't have Mopsy. Why is he in here in the first place? Justice for D. Test 5. Destruction testing. Result. Explosive, fire, gunshot, mechanical wood chipper fail. Direct attack upon desk with axe leaves a single gash with a depth of 3 millimeters and results in as well as death of attacking personnel. Gash remains in desk. Video logs show gash healing at a rate of 1 micrometer per day. Test 6. Researcher sits in -2. Asks, "What are you?" Result. Entity taking the appearance of a large snake states,
I'm sorry. It's against policy to divulge personal details, but may I interest you in...
Researcher stood from chair, shaking and ending the session. Researcher was then placed in Mental Institution 5, awaiting review due to information revealed by offer. Test 7. Sheldon Katz, Esquire, Senior Counsel with the Foundation's Legal Department. Result. At commencement of test, Mr. Katz presented the entity with a notarized, apostilled affidavit stating that he was participating in the test on his own behalf and not as an agent for the Foundation. Approximately 41 hours after the commencement of the test, Mr. Katz lapsed into unconsciousness due to exhaustion. Mr. Katz described the appearance of the entity as identical to his first-year contracts professor from law school, but he declined to describe the nature of the offer that had been made. He reported that just prior to his blacking out, he had been in the midst of negotiating a precise technical definition of the word shall. Katz stated that the current working draft of the agreement that he and the entity had been drafting was at least 900 pages long at that moment, exclusive of exhibits and schedules, and that he regretted not keeping a copy for his form file. A red leather envelope smelling of sulfur was found on Mr. Katz's person, which contained a handwritten note reading,
Please, come back anytime. I haven't had so much fun in years.
Mr. Katz has requested reassignment. Remaining tests require level 4 clearance or higher to view until declassification is complete. Addendum 738-3. Notes.
In recent testing, offers have been made directly to the researchers who were telling the subject what to do. Recommend cessation of all testing.
05. This one really has that older SCP vibe to it. I think they're really charming. There's like a certain level of simplicity to them that speaks to me, and I know I constantly keep coming back to this, but that's because every time we read one of these older ones, they go one of two directions. Either they're like a bit too 2010 creepypasta lame, or they're like super cool while also keeping things very simple, and I fucking love that. But I will say that something that I have learned while doing these videos now for the last couple of months or so is that I thought most of the newer ones were doing this, you know, complicated, expanded universe stuff with a lot of lore and sometimes recurring characters and different canons that are continuous through multiple entries and stuff. But while that definitely is a thing now, more than it probably used to be back in the day, it's not exclusively that. And there are a bunch of cool new ones that also keep things pretty straightforward and simple. So with that, I'd like to ask you to leave any recommendations that you might have for newer entries in the comments of this video. Let's say that they have to be somewhere between SCP-7000 and the latest one, which is 8999. So if you know any cool newer ones that aren't super complicated and instead kind of capture that old vibe, then yeah, leave it in the comments and we'll get to it in an upcoming video. But with that, that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon members and YouTube members. Is Patreon members what you say? Probably not. You say patrons. Either way, they're up on screen right now, so extra huge thank you to you guys. We really appreciate the support. Next week, we'll be back with another chapter of There Is No Anti-Memetics Division, and until then, stay safe and have a good one. Bye-bye.